Hey everybody, welcome to another drive-through rundown. Today we're going to talk about the Pirates and Bounty Hunters expansion for Firefly, the board game. So I'm just going to do a quick rundown of some of the components and some of the new rules. There's a lot of player versus player interaction that's going to be added with this game. Here you can see the box, and one interesting note that I wanted to point out here is if we zoom in here a little bit, we can see that instead of it being a fixed player count, it actually just says 2+ players. Because this is going to add 2 new ships, the Interceptor and the SS Walden. Well, that's 2 plus the 4 ships in the base game, and if you got the Dodger promo card, that's a total of 7 ships. So, according to this little sucker here, it looks like you could play 7-player Firefly, which may be awesome or horrifying. So I just want to give you kind of a box comparison size here, and then we'll crack it open and get started there. So there's the size of the box, which I am going to throw away after this video, and then throw everything in here and probably remove the insert there. So let's take a look at what's inside. Okay, so I've gone ahead and laid out everything on the original game board here, so we can see you get a few more added components here, some goal and warrant tokens, and then you also get your passenger tokens, some disgruntled tokens, and fuel and cargo and things like that for the extra players. Now the first thing we might take a look at here are these 2 ships. If we take a look at these, you can see that the SS Walden here, he has a lot of storage there. Whereas we look over here at the Interceptor, he's only got 4 little storage spots. Here we can see the models for them. They're pretty cool, a little bit different. You can see the Interceptor is a little tiny thing, and you get the little cargo holds there in the SS Walden. You also will note there that there are 7 of these Haven markers here. So they have included one for the Dodger promo ship that you can get. I believe you can buy that now on the website, so you don't have to go try to hunt it down too much. But there are some missions, I'll talk about this more in a second, where you can kind of mark a particular planet. So if you wanted to mark Valentine here as your haven area, then you could not necessarily be messed with there. So if we take a look here at the Interceptor ship, it's going to come with this main drive core here. You can see it has a range of 8, but it also may not be replaced. It may only be used by the Interceptor here. As well, no fuel is required to initiate a fuel burn, so you're going to be stuck with this guy, but you can move really fast, really far without using any fuel. As you can see, you don't have any space for the fuel anyway. And so here's our good friend, the poor soul, Jubal Early from the show here. He's a little bounty hunter, and he gets, when attacking in a showdown, which I'll explain in a minute, you get the +2 weapons there. He also can carry up to 2 gear instead of 1. So this guy you can use however you want, but he's a guy that you would probably throw in the Interceptor to be thematic. And then over here in the SS Walden, as you can see, it's got a huge cargo hold, but it has no stash. So that's another interesting part about the Interceptor over there. There's no stash. Remember, you have sort of your main hold and then your stash, which is going to be very important with this expansion. Now he also comes with a drive core here of a range 4. Now this also may not be replaced. It may only be used by this, but it's got a very short range, but it's also immune to the heavy load penalty, so you can carry a bunch of stuff. But you can get too much stuff in here, I think you're going to be a big target. And then here we have the other new captain or leader here, and you can see here he got his little bit of stats there. Whenever you complete a piracy job, steal $500 from the rival on top of whatever the piracy job's going to give you. So this guy and some of the other, captain, this other guy here, he's got a little effect triggering the showdown, which is a new thing. And then we have some new job cards, a bunch of new items and people cards and things. And then we have here the new bounty cards. Well, first we can take a look at the job cards. We've got new job cards for all of the different contacts here. Let's take a look at our friend Badger. Now all of these are going to be piracy type of jobs. So you're going to take and shuffle these into the normal deck, and what you're going to do is you're going to actually have to do a boarding test. Anytime that you're going to do something like steal or piracy or try to get a bounty possibly on one of these wanted fugitives, you're always going to have to do a boarding test here. So you can either choose to do the engineering, repairing, or the negotiation skill there. So you've always got to do a boarding test first, and then you're going to have a showdown here. Now when you do a showdown, each side is going to pick a particular skill and then apply all their gear and everything and then roll off. So I may pick, combat and then as the attacker, and you may pick the negotiation as the defender, whatever you're best at. And so you can see here if you win, for example, this particular job, you steal up to 6 of the defender's goods. Stash goods may never be stolen. Now, one thing that you can do here is, if you did have a stash, before you make the roll attempt, you can kind of move stuff and move around what you have in your stash. Maybe you don't want them stealing fuel or certain cargo or anything. Now, anytime you steal goods, you're not stealing people. You're not stealing fugitives or passengers. You're just stealing, actual goods, just inanimate objects. Now, as you can see, it's kind of risky to do this, because if you lose, you got to kill one of the attacker's crew, and a warrant is issued. Kill one of the attacker's crew. Some of these will say kill 2 of the attacker's crew. So it's going to be, very mean and nasty, but you're also taking a big risk by adding these new jobs in. I'll talk a little bit more about these jobs in a second. The other thing just to make a note of here is you've got a bunch of new item cards and things here for all the different locations. These are just going to get shuffled in. A lot of these kind of things are going to combo off of some of the new skills. So if you do this upgrade to ship here, so you get -2 to the rival. If they're doing an engineering boarding test, it's going to be a little bit more difficult with these booby traps and stuff. So a lot of these are just going to kind of counter off on some of that stuff. Crew carrying scan-proof shades may ignore Alliance wanted crew roll. So all of these are just going to sort of, trigger off of some of the new abilities and effects and mechanics. Now here you can see these bounty cards. There's always going to be 3 up and available, and you can go and get these a variety of different ways. So let's say you had here River Tam on your own ship. You could actually betray her and then basically capture her and then claim this fugitive card here, and then you can go and turn her in here. So you can drop her off at the command cruiser at the White Sun. So if you don't have her, then you can basically fly to where your buddy is. So let's say you were here, and then the Interceptor comes along here, and he tries to snag it. Then you do your boarding roll, and then you're going to have the showdown. You can see the showdown effect there. If you win, then you'd apprehend her, and then you take this card and take the crew card. And then if you lose, though, you're going to kill 2 of the attacker's crew. And then so if this is marked as immoral, then any of the moral crew on your ship is going to become disgruntled there. So the other thing you can do is actually, if you see this crew member here in the discard pile, so remember, you're going to see the discard pile as you kind of dig through these item decks here. If she's in there, for example, you could actually fly to that system and then apprehend her right out of that deck and basically go to her home planet or whatever and take her out of there and then try to deliver her. Now you can also actually rescue this person. So let's say, the Walden here had River Tam, and then Mr. Jubal could go over here, and then he could do the same kind of roll as if he was trying to basically steal her. So let's say he had actually captured her, and so he had her marked as fugitive, and he was trying to get her back to the White Sun. He can come and steal her, and then he can actually add her to her crew, his crew for free, basically by doing the same sort of, you board, and then you do a showdown. So when you do that, what's going to happen is she's going to actually go to the bottom. There's still a bounty out for her, but it's going to be kind of delayed. But this deck isn't too big. If you're going to be doing one of these particular missions over here that is going to drive folks to do a lot of bounty hunting, then it's relatively likely, at least that's what the rules say, that the bounty will come back up here. And I guess if you're playing with 7 players, that would probably be likely. Now, sometimes you will get bounties not on a particular named character, but a certain type. So you can see there's a Cortex alert here on scrappers. And so there may be a Cortex alert on bandits or something like that. And so you can go and actually try to get some of the crew that's of that type. And there's a bunch of those here in these new cards as well. Finally, the game comes with 3 of these mission cards, these story cards. I just want to kind of go over each of these. I find them pretty interesting. So you can see here, this one says 2 to 3 hours PvP focused for experienced players. So this is interesting, and the next one are kind of focused on this whole PvP aspect. And this is after taking the starting jobs, you put all the remaining piracy jobs from the contact decks in their discard pile. So all of these piracy jobs, they're going to be shuffled in. They're going to be available to engage with right away. So that's very interesting. So if you look at this here, after successfully completing any piracy, the attacker may also steal a gold token from the targeted rival. And you get gold tokens by completing piracy, crime jobs, delivering a bounty, or completing a smuggling job. So it's very much a criminal-oriented story. And then the first player to have 5 gold tokens at the start of their turn wins the game. So you got to kind of, last it out and don't get, ransacked by the rest of the players. So this is going to be a real kind of free-for-all battle brawl, especially as you played with, 4 or maybe even more players. So that'll be interesting there. So the next one here, also interesting, this actually uses these little haven markers. And again, these will match the color of the ship cards. And what you do is you actually, instead of at the start of the game choosing different planets to start on, you actually will choose a planet to mark as your haven. So if you look here at Triumph, you can mark that. Now you can't use any of the spots that have the item cards or the contacts, so you got to use sort of a neutral planet. And while you're on that neutral planet, on your haven, then ships at their havens may not be bordered by rivals, so you're kind of safe there. And all of these actually have to be in border space, so you can't make a haven in here, in the alliance space. And then so you can use a work action at your haven to drop off either 4 sets contraband, 4 cargo, or 8 parts. For every complete set, you deliver a gold token. You can deliver multiple sets, and the first player with 4 gold tokens wins. So again, kind of like a smuggling type of thing. You're trying to, not necessarily go out of your way and do bounties and things, but you're just basically, trucking stuff around, getting it back to your haven, building up your nest egg, if you remember some of the show, and then hopefully not getting jacked by the other players. So it's sort of an almost indirect PvP, not as, overtly aggressive as this story here, but this one looks a little bit more interesting possibly. And then finally we have this one, which is a little bit of a thematic type of thing tying into the show. Now, if you'd seen my original review of the game, I hadn't watched the show yet, but now that I've watched the show and the movie, this is pretty cool because you're going to kind of do a jailbreak here as the first goal, and you're going to grab a bounty with a crew card, and then you're going to basically try to get into it. So it must be solid with Harkin, which is the Alliance jerky, and then you got to go to the Alliance cruiser, do a boarding test of the negotiations, so you can kind of talk your way on, and then try to get a 10 combat. You're always going to kill a crew here, even if you succeed. Then you rescue the fugitive, and you've got a warrant issued on you because you've basically sprung your captive. Then you got to go talk to Badger here. You got to pay him $5,000 and deal with Badger. You must be solid with Badger when you do this, so you got to do some kind of job. And then basically he's going to clear all your warrants for you. And then you got to head for the hills and get out of Dodge and head to Three Hills, Georgia. So very much sort of like the tail end of that first season there, this whole jailbreak attitude here. So it's kind of a very interesting, little type of system that we're seeing develop out of this whole game, because you got very sort of nice pick up and deliver attitude with a lot of these basic story cards from the first basic game, and then you got a lot of PvP oriented stuff. I could see them coming out with like co-op stuff now that we're up to 7 possible players, or 6 if you didn't get the promo card. So there's a lot of opportunity here for this kind of, it's a very simple system in a lot of ways, but I can see a lot of stuff happening where it's like team versus team and different stuff like that. So they've added a lot of different rules for, more direct interaction, because again, remember in the basic game, you have the ability to trade and also hire disgruntled crew and things like that. And there's some interesting little sort of tricks that the rules will tell you about in terms of like, maybe kicking a guy off your ship and then going and then getting the bounty when you go to their home planet. Maybe hiring a disgruntled crew against a guy first, and then capturing that crew, getting on your side, and then attacking the other player with that crew now helping you. So there's a lot of cool little things that are going to happen here. And I was just reading online, there's actually like 9 expansions total planned. So I think we've had 2 so far. So there should be like 5, 6, 7 more or something. And so it should be interesting how this sort of universe here, or this verse develops. Okay, thanks.